Hello, Kris.
Hey, we are so excited to be here. Welcome to Three Themes Live. Hey, this is going to be a great week.
I cannot wait.
And we start off with a really amazing day because we are going to introduce you to the brand new theme for our Stitch Your Story.
Yes.
And
we also have a special guest who I cannot wait for you guys to meet. She wrote The Miracle of the Mountain Quilt, and the story behind it is amazing.
Oh, you're not going to want to miss. Welcome to Three Themes Live, where theme number 1 is something to smile about, theme number 2 is something to learn, and theme number 3 is something to discover. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to Three Themes Live. I'm Kris here at my girlfriend's quilt shop, and I am just so thrilled to be here with you. And I want to do a special shout out real quick to all those girlfriends and guy friends we met this last weekend out in Puyallup, Washington. We had such a great time. Thank you for all those of you who were able to show up, and we just enjoyed thoroughly being able to meet you face to face, put a face to a name, have a hug, and get to know you a little bit better. So thank you again for coming, and we hope to do it again sometime in the near future at another place in the country, right?
Maybe
Allison?
in your neck of the woods.
Maybe so. So I've got Allison here with me today, and we are really excited because we have a new Stitch Your Story theme to share with all of you today. And but before we do that, okay, this is kind of a drum roll, right, before we introduce the new theme. But we do want to talk about the theme a little bit of what we did last month. So Allison, why don't you start off with just telling anyone who might be new to Three Themes Live, what is Stitch Your Story all about?
Stitch Your Story is an amazing movement. I'm going to call it a movement because I think that we have started where we kind of decided that a lot of our stories are being lost due to the way that we share our social media and share our stories.
Yes.
We're not writing letters, we're not some of us journal, but we're doing a lot on our phones and with technology.
Yes.
And so we decided that we were going to start a Stitch Your Story, which basically has 2 parts.
Yes.
The first part is that you create a quilt block based on the theme or not based on the theme, but a quilt block around something that speaks to your heart and your story, something that you would want to share with the future legacies of or your future posterity or anyone, really. And then the second part is that we have a free downloadable journal that you write your story down, and so if you were to pass that quilt to somebody, you would pass the story with it so that they knew what each and every block means.
You know what I'm discovering through this process, not only through what I'm doing and creating my own stories, but also through what you all are doing. Yes, we're doing it for our future, generations, our family members, but what's really telling to me is I'm actually doing it for myself.
Right.
And, I've been hearing story after story of so many of you who are discovering things about yourselves that you didn't realize before, or maybe you kind of tucked it in the background a little bit. I talked with one of our girlfriends out there just this weekend, and she was telling me about her experience with the Stitch Your Story movement. I like that, Allison. And she said, this was really hard for her because there are a lot of stories in her past or with her family's past that she didn't quite want to tell. And I said, that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to. But she said, it's been interesting because I have been able to take some of those things, some of those difficult things I've gone through in my life, and actually share the story of what I learned from them. And that has helped her grow. And that really meant a lot to me because I think that's what this whole Stitch Your Story movement is all about.
Well, I know one of the things that I absolutely love about Stitch Your Story is sometimes we don't know where to start.
Yeah.
How do you condense all of your stories and all of your experiences into a little bit? So
Yeah.
we give you a keyword which may speak to you and it may
not. Exactly.
I mean, and if it doesn't, find something else.
Yes,
But we have
yes.
done legacy, and last month we did freedom. What does freedom mean to you, and how does that impact you as a person, and how would you like to tell your story about what freedom means?
And what's interesting is that so many of you have a different version of freedom. So while many of us may think of the freedoms of our own country, there are lots of blocks that are being shared on our Friends of My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop page that are sharing all kinds of definitions of freedom, and I am here for it. I love that part.
Right. The fun part is that at the end of the year, we will give you some instructions on how to put your 12.5 by 12.5 unfinished blocks together into a quilt. But maybe you don't want a quilt. Maybe you want a series of pillows. Maybe you just want, maybe you're doing a book. Maybe you're doing 6 by 6 blocks because you want a wall hanging. But we have said that we will put together, if you do 12.5 by 12.5, we will put together a quilt that at the end of the year kind of tells a little bit about your story. And I cannot wait because no two are the same.
Exactly. No two will be alike.
Right.
And that's the exciting thing about all of this. So if you are thinking to yourself, oh, I haven't even started, it's probably too late. No, it's not too late. It's never too late to get started. If you don't want to go back to January and February themes, go ahead and start today. Start today and move forward, because I promise you won't regret it. Another comment I heard this weekend in Puyallup was someone said, you know, I have so many UFOs to do. I don't know if I can tackle another project. And I said, but this may be the most important project you do. And she thought about that for a minute, and she said, you know, you're probably right. I think I will go ahead and get started. So it's never too late, and just jump in where you're at.
And maybe you just do one block. Maybe all that speaks to you is one block. But think how important, and the reason I'm gonna tell that, my mom has hanging on her wall, she has just one block, and it's about 9 by 12, I would say. I mean, it's just small. It's framed, it's on her wall, but it came across from England and then across the plains with the pioneers from her ancestor, and it's all she has of kind of that legacy of hers. She keeps it framed. It's beautiful. It's a little tattered. It means something to us. But just do one block, because you never know who you're going to speak to in the future generations with your one block.
Yes. So last month we talked about the word freedom, as we mentioned, and we wanted to highlight just a couple of blocks from some of you out there who were able to share what freedom meant to you. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of your blocks. So this one is from our friend Cheryl Usada. And I loved what she shared, because she's sharing the story about several members of her family who were part of the armed forces, including her brother-in-law, Rick. And she actually used his uniform as the background in that block. Okay, so if you can kind of tell there, that's his uniform, and I love that. And he was a member of the Air Force. Now, she also had another family member who was killed during the war, and he was only 18 years old. So, I mean, talk about what does freedom mean to you? Well, freedom isn't free, and that's exactly what she stitched on there. And in her blog, she also mentions that she embroidered in gold because she wanted it to stand for her Gold Star mother-in-law, who was the one who sent these boys off to war. And, you know, there's a lot to be said for that as well, and for the families back home. So again, she reminds us that freedom isn't free, and this is her way of honoring them and not forgetting them in her story.
And one of the beautiful parts about this, Cheryl, and I hope I'm okay to share this, is that with her heritage, what brave men to fight and actually have to go to war and fight against their heritage, so to speak.
Yes, because they were Japanese Americans.
Yes, because they were Japanese Americans, and there were internment camps here in the United States, which I just think I just think what brave men
Yes.
that they would do that. And having been to Japan and having been in Tokyo and seen the other side and to understand, you know, that you came to America and you embrace this country. I just think it's just absolutely a beautiful block and a beautiful, beautiful story of freedom.
Absolutely. So thank you, Cheryl, so much for sharing your story with us, because it definitely touched our hearts for sure. And then we have a second block that was shared by Mary Ann McCain Doty. And tell us about this one, Allison.
So Mary Ann McCain Doty also talked about the freedom. She actually sent her husband to her first husband to the Vietnam War. And so she stitched that because she talks about being a little girl and saying the Pledge of Allegiance and putting her hand over her heart and what an impact that made. And I feel like that's something that we've lost in the public schools anymore, is that sense of freedom and what that means. But she says to this day she carries a picture of her first husband because she sent him off to war. But she talks about how important freedom is and how she has used that opportunity to teach her children and you know, those around her the importance of freedom. But it's a beautiful, beautiful block. I love the flag and I love her story as well, because I mean, you know, they're two important. You know that my story a little bit, you know, we talk about freedom and having had grandparents and my brother who serves in the military, that unless you know exactly what that is, and unless you've sent them off to war, you do not understand the impact and the price.
The price that was paid, absolutely. And again, freedom can mean so many things to so many different people. I mean, I've seen where, you know, some have talked about the freedom of letting go of the past, the freedom of, you know, being able to worship as they will.
Yeah,
the
mine was freedom of religion.
The freedom of being able to, you know, let a family member pass on who was sick and ill, and being able to let that go. So it's just really incredible. So continue sharing your stories. Just because the month of February is over doesn't mean that we need to stop. Please continue to share. Again, I always like to say, let's keep the conversation going, all right? Because I think what means, the different meanings are so impactful on all of us.
And what we learn from each other, one of the most fulfilling things about this, and especially coming back from Puyallup and doing the Stitch Your Story and getting emails and different things, is what we learn from each other. Because I think that we all have an idea of what it means. But until you share your story with others, you don't know who you're going to impact.
Exactly. I love it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, freedom was last month's theme, but let's continue doing it. If you haven't jumped in yet, it's not too late. I can't reiterate that enough. All right, so I want to introduce this month's theme, and that is the word
miracle.
Miracle.
Now, this one was really hard for me, Kris, and I can't wait until Wednesday to share my block with you. Because, as you know, I have all kinds of ideas floating around, and they have come so easy until this month.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So this may come really easy for some, but this miracle block was a little bit challenging, and so I'm so excited to hear about all the miracles, big and small.
Yes, because there are so many miracles, and there's so many ways to take this idea too. I mean, for some it might be just the miracle of waking up each morning and having the sun shining. It might be going out into your garden, and that might be a miracle.
My husband says nature to him is such a miracle, just the rebirth of spring.
Exactly. It might be a life-changing experience that you've had or a member of your family has had. There are so many different ways to look at the word miracle. So if you haven't downloaded your free journal pages for the Stitch Your Story movement, please go to our website and download those. All you have to do is type in Stitch Your Story, and you'll be able to find that as a free download. You know, again, the block is really special, but it's not going to have meaning unless you write the story down. So that's what we're encouraging everyone to do, is to create your block, write your story, share your story if you feel comfortable, and and continue working on this
We love
beautiful
to feature
quilt.
them. So
We do. So I love this. Susan said 20 years ovarian cancer free.
What a
That's
miracle.
amazing.
Yes.
And Liz shared that she had the freedom to walk away from an abusive marriage. And that's incredible, Liz. I mean, so all of these things are just so touching, and we want you to share. So miracle is the theme for this month, and I think we have the perfect segue into theme number 2, because we are talking about a book today called The Miracle of the Mountain Quilt. Very, very fitting. We'll have an interview, a special interview with Angela Tilsher right after this. Last week on Three Things Live, we took inspiration from our favorite movies and maybe embarrassed ourselves a little with our acting debut.
your smile, your hair,
Your clothing.
Hey, we're going to win awards for that performance.
I don't think so, Allison. The only awards we'll be winning are for the awesome projects that we made last week.
An adorable celebration table runner inspired by the movie The Emperor's New Groove, and the exclusive Hearts in Bloom quilt inspired by the movie Wicked.
Be sure to join us live every Monday through Wednesday at 1 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's time to find out why you belong here. So hurry and catch up on all this cinematic goodness by watching on Facebook or YouTube, or by clicking the links below.
Three Things Live is where we always have something to make you smile
Something to learn.
and something to discover.
Let's go. All right, we are back for theme number 2. Interesting conversation going on here during that transition that I think is important to point out. And Barb is asking, one of her holdups is that she doesn't have kids. So who would she pass it on to?
Right.
What would you say to that? Because I like what Sybil says. She said like a donation to a museum or a church or a distant family member would be an idea.
Barbara, I go through this myself.
Yeah.
Because as you know, my children are my stepchildren, and I go through this quandary all the time. Who do I pass my legacy down to?
Yeah.
Because my legacy affects them, but
Yes.
isn't necessarily theirs. And I always come back to a few stories about neighbors or friends or nieces or nephews or people that have been impacted in life. So just, Barbara, I want to tell you a quick story about a lady in my neighborhood that befriended an older lady as she grew older. And I walked into her house and there was this beautiful painting on her wall. And I said, Penny, oh my word, that painting is so absolutely beautiful. And she says, I have to share with you that this is one of my really great friends who passed, and this is what she left me. And we were just friends in her later years, but it is my most prized possession.
Wow.
And so family
Okay.
is not necessarily who you give birth to,
Yes.
but family is who you encompass and who you share those relations to.
I love that.
also go back to our interview last month about the quilts from
Gee's Bend.
Yeah, Gee's Bend. And those women made those quilts and the heritage that they
Yeah.
left behind.
Yeah.
And those quilts were not passed down to their children.
Right.
Those quilts are actually in a museum and those quilts were made. And so I go through that same thing, but I think it's why it's important to A, leave our story, and B, label our quilts, because we
love that.
don't know
Yeah,
who's
it's very
going to love
true.
those. But
Very
this
true.
right here maybe will answer one of Barbara's questions.
I think you're absolutely right. This is called The Miracle of the Mountain Quilt, and I feel like it was just a little miracle in itself that I came across this, because this was a book I had not necessarily seen before, but as I was doing some research on different things across the World Wide Web, I discovered this book, and I said, this sounds very interesting. And it's from Angela Tilsher. And so we've asked Angela if she wouldn't mind coming on, joining us virtually. She lives out in Florida, and she's with us today to tell us a little bit more about what this book is about and why she wrote it. So welcome, Angela, to Three Things Live.
Hello, Angela. Isn't she
Hi,
darling?
thank you.
She's just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, Allison, she's not only beautiful on the outside, but she is absolutely beautiful on the inside, because the more I've gotten to know about what she's doing and what her mission in life is, the more I go, wow, wow. I want to be just like her. So, Angela, tell us about this book. Is this your first book you've written?
Yes, ma'am. This is the first book I've written. So the story of The Miracle of a Mountain Quilt is actually a story about faith, resilience, and community. It was actually inspired by a real quilt that was found after Hurricane Helene. And the story is about a lost family heirloom that finds its way home. And it's just
Okay.
a tribute
Now,
to the Appalachian strength. And it was written to honor the unlikely heroes in the community during Hurricane Helene.
okay, so let's stop for a moment and talk about Hurricane Helene, because this was not that long ago, was it?
No, it was actually almost 6 months ago.
That's crazy to me. What do you
Yeah.
think about that, Allison?
I marvel at how quickly our brains move on from one thing to another, and that it seems so long ago, because at the
And yet
time that
it's
it was
not.
happening, we were all enthralled and our hearts were so encompassing of those that were going through it. And then all of a sudden we moved on to fires in California.
Yes.
And then that is what our focus was on. But these people have not moved on.
Okay, so I want to, let's go ahead and talk. You're absolutely right. And I want to talk more about that here in just a few moments. But you obviously were affected by this, but not physically, but more emotionally. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have seen the devastation that hurricanes can cause firsthand, having experienced them here in Florida. But when Helene hit the Appalachian region, I wanted to help because but I wasn't sure how to help. It was just so big and so vast, and so I was so moved by everything that was happening and the amount of footage that was being shown and different things. And so because I was so focused on learning about it and so enthralled in it, I was able to, my heart broke for them. And so I just became invested. And so I was deeply moved by the resilience of these families, the communities that were coming together from various states and towns. The mountain packer mules were delivering baby formula and medical supplies to impossible to reach areas. Private helicopters were flying and doing rescues. I mean, even the Amish communities were coming in and building these tiny homes for the recovery. And it was just incredible to see such a variety of people coming in to help. And so when I saw the image of the quilt, I found it actually online. There was a Facebook group that everybody was kind of posting the things that they found after the storm. And they were trying to see if they could find the original owners to try to give anybody a shred of anything left. And that is when I saw the quilt. And I knew
Wow.
in that moment when I saw that quilt, a story had to be written.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
incredible. So, this was a Facebook group that had started from people who'd been affected. They basically took pictures of the things that they had found, posted them, and were trying to find the original owner. Is that correct?
That's correct. And
Okay,
it was
so
incredible.
yeah, so what's interesting is that you took that quilt that you saw and you made a story around it. And it's a beautiful story. But also what's interesting is that the other items that, were being posted on this group, that people who had come across different, whether it was china, whether it was books, whether it was photographs, you actually have those hidden in this story, don't you?
Yes, ma'am. So there were so many things that were so special that people were finding. And the purpose of the story. Okay, so our family has a family tradition at Christmas time where we read Advent stories every day leading up until Christmas. And these are just treasured stories we've had throughout the years. And I thought that a Christmas story would be the best way to honor this time and the unlikely heroes this entire situation. And just to kind of remember how far they've come, I wanted this to be kind of like an heirloom of sorts that they can just all look back every Christmas. And the items that I found, I wanted to put them in there for the people who were like, that is so relatable. I wanted it to be their story and their memories. And so I didn't want to leave any out, and so I hid them in the book. So
I think
I
that's
love
so
that.
special.
I know. I just absolutely love that.
Yes, when I heard you telling us about this, I thought, okay, we need to let everyone know, because that gave me goosebumps. I just love that you shared that. So we were talking earlier, the story of the little boy and girl. They're looking for different items that they lost from their home. That part is fictional, correct?
yes, ma'am.
But tell us what is actually happened. And I love this.
So
It's like this historical fiction coming together for a child. I love it.
Yes, it's a historical fiction. So some parts of the story that are true are my great grandmother Ilona. I have a little story about her in here, and her story is they were Hungarian. They lived in Hungary, and she was actually a newlywed to the town tailor. And this was during World War II, and he was away at war. And one day, the soldiers showed up at his shop and handed her a pair of trousers and said to repair these, and they would be back in a few days. And she had never sewn a day in her life. And so she was absolutely petrified. And so she laid those trousers out on the table, and she tried to make the best pattern she could and repair those trousers. And 2 days later, they showed up for them, and she handed it to them, and they didn't say anything to her. And I think I like to think in that moment, she realized just how brave stitching gave her bravery.
Well, what a miracle too. I mean, not to say anything, but there had to be a little bit of a hand of God in there in order for her to come up with pants that she had never stitched in her life that she could make.
Can I share with you just a passage when you talk about that story, because I think I just chuckled when I read this. She laid the trousers out on the table, cut a pattern, snip, snip, and prayed to the good Lord like she'd never had before. When the soldiers came back, she handed over the trousers without a word. They left, and she realized that stitching had given her strength.
Wow.
Isn't that wonderful?
I love that phrase. How many times has stitching given us strength?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that story. That's so, so cute. And she goes on to say that she was trembling but determined. After that, she taught herself to sew. She started small, counting the squares she'd stitched like she was counting the days until he'd come home. Her neighbors gathered around, each woman bringing bits of fabric wherever they could spare. They prayed, they laughed, and they shared dreams of the future. That's pretty meaningful.
Yes, ma'am.
So how does that idea affect the rest of the story?
So in the rest of the story, what happens is, the families that were affected were trying to help wherever they could. And I think that sometimes what happens is we feel like being brave has to be something heroic, something grand that you see in the news, or you're like a superhero. But really, it can just be helping your neighbor when you have nothing else to give. And there's actually a saying in my book, and it says bravery isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, like a stitch in a quilt or a neighbor's helping hand. And I think that sometimes we get wrapped up into thinking that we have to be something bigger and better, but really just being who you are and stepping in where you can. And so the story just continues that journey with the different community members in the book who reach out in a simple way. And in the end, they change
one of the
someone's
things
life.
that I really love, Angela, is that your involvement of children. Because sometimes I think when there's something big, especially the loss of a home and all your belongings, we don't realize how that is impacting the children and involving them in how they can help and the little things that they can do, and maybe easing some of their worry because they are busy. Because how many times do we think, oh my gosh, this is so big, we'll just protect our children, or we will not involve them because we don't want to hurt them. And so for you to involve the kids in this story and how they can help, and their loss. I don't think that sometimes we understand that the loss of a special toy or a loss of their clothes when we've lost a home is just as traumatic.
Yes.
Angela, would you mind sharing that quote one more time? Because I just think it's so poignant, and I'd love to have everyone just really listen in on that, about what you said about bravery.
The quote is, bravery isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, like a stitch in a quilt or a neighbor's helping hand.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Oh, here we go. Steve just
He kept the tissues ready
keeps my
for you.
tissues handy.
I want to
I'm the
share.
resident crier.
I want to share another favorite quote from this book, if you don't mind. When she said to her mama, "A stitch in hard times holds twice as strong." Wow. Okay, again, a stitch in hard times holds twice as strong. So there's a lot to be said for that, isn't there, Angela?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Angela, do you think that we as a society have forgotten about what happened just 6 months ago with Hurricane Helene?
You know, it's interesting because my daughters and I just had a chance to go up there this past weekend for the first time. And we got to meet some of the families and just kind of interact a little bit there. And honestly, it was quite shocking to see just how vast and wide the damage is, how widespread, but that everything kind of looks like it just happened like yesterday.
Really?
And it was very eye-opening to see that. I think that just the way our society is, we do move on from the next thing to the next thing. And that's just kind of how everything is, right? Everything is so quick these days. And we go to the next big story, the next big thing. But there's people there that are still hurting. And there's a lot of small towns that never made the news. There's a lot of areas, that it's going to take years to recover. And if we can keep a light on that and say, don't forget the people in the Appalachian region, all the better for them. It is just a beautiful, beautiful place. And the people are beautiful and their culture is beautiful. And to see them struggle, it's hard to see. But I think that the more eyes we can get on it, the better, and the community who's come around is everyday people. These are just people from different states, different places are coming in, and they're still there every day. There are tons of volunteer groups there that you can partner with. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of positive things going on, but it is also, it's going to be a long road. It's going to be a long road.
So when you and your daughters went just this weekend, how would you describe it in one word?
Oh, wow. That's
It's
a hard
heartbreaking.
question, Kris.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, I bet it is. I think it's just really incredible that in just a short 6 months, you had an idea, you turned it around, you wrote the story, you published a book. That, I think, is a miracle in itself.
It was an actual Christmas miracle. The proof to concept was the middle of October. And I thought it was crazy when I felt so impressed that the Lord was saying, you need to write this story. And I thought, there's no way, Christmas is in a few weeks. And so I actually printed off some concept ideas and taped it to my fridge. And I walked past it for like a week. And every time I walked past, I would just pray and say, am I supposed to do this or am I crazy? And it was just being confirmed more and more. And so it was a Christmas miracle that we got that published 15 days before Christmas.
Wow.
And not just published, but the story, the research with her grandmother, and the hidden Easter egg, so to speak, of all the things that were found. It's just amazing.
What do
Thank
you
you.
hope this book will accomplish by being out there?
Oh, for me personally, I hope this book becomes a tradition, something that families can read every year as a reminder of their strength and the resilience. The message is timeless. While it's set at Christmas time, it really is a story about hope, and it can apply to anybody in any family. And I think it needs to be a reminder of what we can achieve together.
Yes, absolutely. And how so many different people from all different walks of life can come together and help in small and big ways.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I love that. This really is very special. I want to remind everyone of what the book is called. It's The Miracle of the Mountain Quilt, an Appalachian Christmas story. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Appalachian is how she's been pronouncing it, but maybe tell us quickly, where in the country are we looking at when we talk about the Appalachians?
So the
In
particular
particular.
area that was actually hit by Hurricane Helene was just up on western North Carolina, and then it went up to eastern Tennessee and into the little bottom part of West Virginia there, and
Okay.
or yeah, right up there. And so but it goes up through Kentucky, and but the areas, I mean, Irwin, Tennessee, just all those areas up there are all a part of that.
Okay, so that's good to know for those who might not know where that area is being considered. You were telling us earlier that it is so vast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we actually drove from Asheville, and then we drove about an hour north, and then we drove a little bit ways to the east. So we did a little bit of a rotation there, and it's just so widespread. And we weren't even far in, and it just goes. I mean, if I had to drive all the way to Tennessee, it would have been another hour plus drive, and it's just the entire way. It was just damage. I mean, it never stopped. It was just incredible to see just how widespread it was.
What was the reaction of your daughters by being there?
It was difficult for them when we got to certain areas of it. They're quite vocal anyways, and so there was a lot of sorrow when they would drive by. There was a lot of, "Oh, mama," and we slowed down, to look at some of it and just kind of try to imagine it, because now it just looks like it's a hot mess. But to try to imagine water coming through that area and the capacity that it did, and just the flooding, we tried to stand there and imagine it. We pulled over, and it's incredible. Our eyes, I don't think we can fathom it unless we went through it. And I wish that I could get closer to that feeling, but it was really special for our family to go and to experience that.
I think what you've done is amazing, because sometimes we feel so helpless, we don't know what to do, and so then we kind of just stay still.
Right.
We're just like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just not going to do anything. But you, on the other hand, took some action, not only in writing this book, but you also have a beautiful charity that you started, where you did involve your daughters to be a part of it in order to give back. And as Allison was talking about earlier, when we talk about children and them losing a special toy or a doll, for example, you actually took this whole idea one step further. So we're going to talk about that here in just a moment, because for theme number 3, we are going to talk about the Appalachian Doll Project, and that is something that I want everyone who's watching to hear about and to learn more about how you can get involved. We'll be back right after this.
My inspiration is a log cabin block. I love using rulers. It's called Log Cabin Trim Tool. You can do a 12-inch finish, or you can do a 6-inch finish. First, cut your center square exactly. Make sure that your strips are cut at least a 1.5 inch. I'm going to take my square and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. Let me trim it. I can take it to my iron and press it open. Okay, so here was what I just sewed. We're going to sew another strip. I'm going to trim it. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to sew my next one. I will center my center square, trim it. I'm going to flip my block, trim it. So there's my perfect square. Okay, there's a little white square here, trim it. flip my block, trim it. You're not going to trim this last one unless you square it up. It looks really, really good.
Welcome back, everyone, to Three Things Live. Hey, we have just finished such a beautiful interview with Angela Tilsher. She is the author of The Miracle of the Mountain Quilt. And this story talks about the devastation that was left by Hurricane Helene just a short 6 months ago, if you can believe that. And Angela was with us during theme number 2. She has stayed with us for theme number 3, which I'm so thrilled about. Let's bring her back on. Hi, Angela.
Hi.
Hey, so welcome back. As I mentioned earlier, you started another organization in order to help those children who have been affected by the hurricanes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what it's called?
Yes. Okay. So our family is a family-led mission with the help of our incredible community. And we're called Mountain Heirlooms, an Appalachian Doll Initiative. And you can find us on Facebook and also on our website. And how this actually started was before the book. It was actually kind of at the same exact time. And that was, we didn't know what we could do to help. And we felt so helpless far away, but also I always try to include our children in anything we do to help others. We try to do everything as a family. And I was able to come up with an idea. And that idea was, when I saw the storm, I realized the PTSD was going to be off the charts for these children. And how can we target the PTSD quickly without an organization or, through churches and through things? It was a little complicated. And so what was the fastest way? And so I discovered that it was going to be through play, because play is a wonderful form of healing. It gives children a sense of normalcy and hope through a doll. And my girls love American Girl dolls. And this excited them to be able to do something with something that they love and that means so much to them. And so I originally thought, well, you know what? I think what we're going to do is we'll send 5 dolls. Let's see if we can find 5 American Girl dolls, restore them, fix them up, make them look pretty, and then we can send them to girls in need. And here we are in March now, and that actually turned into something much bigger. And we have actually delivered over 140 dolls since Christmas.
Oh, I love this. Beautiful. I love this. Abby, can we bring back the quote about what she says about the child and what a doll means? It was just on not from the book, but from right there. Okay, I love what you said here, that you can't rebuild a child's world, but you can give her a friend to face it with. Oh, yes, so good.
I know, I love that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so what we decided to do was we took American Girl dolls, when you actually purchase them, have a story. And we were sourcing used dolls and making sure they were cleaned up and brand new. And I thought, in the middle of that process, what if we gave them their own story? And what if they were Anna, the Appalachian doll? And so she comes with her own story, and she helps them to face their next few days together. And so we send them with a backpack carrier, an extra outfit, a little mini doll Bible, and a little puppy friend. And our focus was a backpack because they're transient right now. There's still a lot of families who aren't back in their home. They're still staying in hotels. They're staying in campers that were provided to them through various organizations. And I didn't want it to be a burden on the family to have like a box of toys and things they have to try to move from place to place, but that's something that was hers and special. And if you've ever had an American Girl doll, if you have an American Girl doll, how special that is. And they're they're a high-end toy, and everybody knows it. And so I wanted them to not just have any random doll or any toy. I wanted it to be like a high-end gift just for that child. I wanted them to feel seen. I wanted them to feel heard and valuable. And so we really took our time to really make each doll that we gift very special for that. And so what we actually do is we have a wait list, and the families that sign up tell us the girl's hair color. And we try to match the hair color so that when they actually get the doll, it's very personable.
I love this. And you know what's also amazing is that these are not necessarily brand new dolls. Some are, but many are not. And that's how, like, you know, someone like us could be involved if we had, you know, something lying around, or we found one at a dime store or something that we can send to you, and you have a little hospital going on with your girls.
We
don't
have a
you?
hospital going on. That's exactly right. Yes, ma'am. So we actually, our Facebook group just exploded over the last few months, and we have people from all over who love our mission and they're supportive. And at this point, there's no way that we could do it without everybody's help, because we're just only the three of us, you know, trying to do this. And so it has been a huge gift, but it's been amazing because people sew the doll dresses for us, or, you know, or they send us little quilts and sleeping bags and just all these extras. That's just a little extra for them. And it's been so amazing to see this community come together because they believe in the same thing. And this is the fastest way that I know that we can help children right away. And the children that we're helping, they have severe anxiety. They're afraid of the rain. They're afraid to go to sleep at night. Anytime that there's any kind of rain, they panic. We've heard so many stories. And on the flip side of that, we've heard so many testimonials about their doll helping them. Their doll is helping them to play again.
And if you want to see some of these stories, you've got to check out her Facebook page, because I'm just so touched by it. I wanted to post all these photos of these girls receiving them, but of course I didn't have permission to do it. So I'm letting you all know that you've got to head over to her Facebook page, to her Instagram, to be able to read these stories, because it'll bring you to tears, and you will realize firsthand how much these dolls mean to these little girls. But I've got to share something else. Your daughters are absolutely adorable. And I have a little video of them as they've been opening the boxes of so many dolls that are coming to your home, to the little hospital. Your girls crack me up. Okay, so if we're going to take a minute and watch this, because they're figuring out right now how they're going to repair these dolls, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Okay, let's take a look.
Oh, these are our boxes from Goodwill that we ordered, so let's see what we've got.
Okay, so we have this first doll right here who has cut hair, but I'm a master at making it look straighter than it actually is. Like, it's kind of like crooked and stuff.
Yeah, but she matches you right now.
She has really bad hair.
Can we pile them on now? Let's pile them on.
See this one? You showed her?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is crazy. Her face.
Okay, all right, wait.
Hair, just trying to get out the tie.
We're gonna make, like, we could curl it.
Yeah, so she's got really bad
This is
hair.
Rebecca. That's Rebecca. Rebecca Rubin, everybody.
Really?
We have some nail polish here, and then on her feet, she has a bunch of the orange marks. And her hair is pretty tangly, but I think we can make this work. Sage as well.
She's got a lot of marks on her face, and she's got green on her arm, and more like marker.
Her hair is pretty actually
there's
decent.
a big mark on her foot. So yeah,
She's just dirty.
A dirty hair mess.
Show you the after pictures.
Yes.
All right. We have an Isabel here. Again, cut hair. These dolls actually came in the same lot. I don't know what the kid did, but I don't know. But she looks actually really good. Her face just needs a little cleaning and maybe shampooing of her hair. I think this doll's pretty good.
Oh my goodness.
They're so darling. I love that. I am actually a master at cut hair.
That is just the cutest thing ever, and I love that you're getting them involved. How can we all be involved in this?
Thank you so much. So, if you want to just join our Facebook group over here, we talk all the time about the different needs we have. We are looking for dolls anytime. We will pretty much take any kind of doll that you want to send us in any condition. And we're looking for dresses. Our heart is that they go out in dresses, but we also take donations for all kinds of clothing that's for 18-inch dolls. And we include those extra outfits for the girls. And so you are welcome to check us out and see. We do have an Amazon wish list always for the supplies that we need. And we're so excited to be able to share this, because here's the thing. If people are looking for ways to help, this is a wonderful way to participate in a direct, meaningful way, a direct contact to families, which is just such a blessing. It really is. So anybody can help.
Absolutely. Now, one of the questions that I see come up a lot with your group is, do you have anything for the little boys? What is your response to that?
So at this time, we are focusing on just the specific ministry here for the girls. And we don't really have anything at this time for the boys, but we have been trying to look out about that. And there's other people who are trying to see what they can do. So I'm connected to a few people that when something does come out, I'm going to be one of the first to know.
I love that.
Yeah, we have to remember, Angela, it's you and your family and a few volunteers. I mean, so I think we need to take your time and energy into consideration too.
But I think the important thing is that you started something. And you've started somewhere, and that's what counts.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how old you are, right? Because our girls can participate in something meaningful. And I think that is something I want to encourage, is that you don't have to be, a specific age or talent, that anybody can help today with something. You can do something.
Absolutely. Just do something, right?
Just do something. Exactly.
Just do something. I love that. So how can we get more information about this project, about the book? Where do we go?
So everything right now is online at mountainheirlooms.com. You can access the book, is on Amazon as well, but you can just go to our website and everything that we're doing is on there directly, including our Facebook page. So you just got to click.
If I may say, Mountain Heirlooms. Do not type in Appalachian Doll, because it's a little scary. Mountain Heirlooms is your key. I mean, you can eventually get there, but I typed that up and I'm like, what kind of voodoo are we into, Kris?
Oh, no.
I really do love that you've created the doll's own story as well. So Anne's story, and it's very specific to Hurricane Helene and how they can overcome some of the things that they've been facing with. So it's incredible. I want to reiterate a comment that was just made from Terry Pratt out there that says, you are truly an angel, Angela.
Yes.
And I agree with her.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, would fabric donations be helpful, or would you rather have us put together the doll clothes?
So that can go two ways. We do have some sewers in our group that I know if I connected you, they would love that. But also, I think getting dolls is one of our biggest priorities. The more dolls we have now, we can reach more quickly. But we would love to be able to do something like that for sure for our sewers.
Okay, that sounds good. And then another question that's coming up is it just the 18-inch dolls that you're accepting?
So yes, so we're only accepting the authentic American Girl brand dolls.
Perfect.
But any brand of clothing.
Okay.
Yes.
That is great to know.
Yes.
Good information.
Yes, because she wants it to be a high quality, really great donation.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end today?
I don't think so. I am so grateful for this time together and to meet you wonderful people. Thank you so much.
You are welcome, and thank you.
What a blessing you have been to this world, really. I mean, to us, to this world. So what a great way to start our week.
It is. Thank you so much, Angela. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
And
you too.
we will definitely be in touch with you, because I know there's many in our audience who would love to get involved, whether it's monetary donations. Would you take that as well?
Yes, we can talk about that. Yes.
Okay. All right. As soon as we get more information about that, we'll make sure and let our audience know as well. So I love this. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
All right. Wow. What a way to kick off our miracle theme for the month, right?
I mean, she is a miracle in and of herself. I mean, you know, to just listen maybe sometimes to the promptings. I love that where she's like, I thought about it in October. I put it on my fridge and just kept walking.
And it was written on her heart.
It written on her heart. Yep. So absolutely, absolutely, so fantastic. And thank you guys all for joining us. And I hope that she touched your hearts as much as she's touched ours the past couple of weeks. We've been so excited to do this.
We've been really looking forward to it. And I think what a great example to all of us is, you know, just start somewhere, start something, do, you know, every little bit helps. So we hope that you'll all get involved as much as you are able to. And make sure, send your donations out to Angela. She's the one with the nurses, you know, those cute little girls.
Those babies. Oh my gosh, aren't they darling?
They're ready to wash those
girls up.
The clothing, the faces, you know, I'm thinking about some of my girls when they had American Girl dolls. They might have mustaches on them. I mean, there's all kinds of things. But those little nurses, they can take care of that.
And remember, it's Mountain Heirloom.
Is it Mountain Heirlooms or Heirloom?
Heirlooms. I'm not. We'll find out.
Let me double check. Hold, please.
Heirlooms. Mountain Heirlooms.
Okay, Mountain Heirlooms is what it is.
That's how you can.
All right.
Be in touch with her.
And again, you can find the book if you are interested. The Miracle of the Mountain Quilt you can find on Amazon or go to their website and pick it up there as well. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here with us. We hope that you've been inspired. We hope that you feel that little tug at your heart that says, you know what, I could do something. I could try and do something. So have a wonderful rest of your day. You keep doing all the things that you love, because I know that the things you do truly do bless others. And we hope to see you again real soon. Bye-bye.